Welcome again. This is telecommunication course. Okay. Today we'll be looking at what is called transmission media. Transmission media. Understand that for information, be it plain text or whatever, in whatever way, be it video call, audio, whatever message which is being transmitted online, there are two ways which this message is being transmitted. So transmission media is actually telling you that there are two ways for messages to be transmitted or to be communicated to get to the end of the line. And this medium is actually called what is being called guarded and the unguarded. Okay, so this is what transmission media is actually explaining. So for any networking to be effective, raw stream of data is to be transported from one device to the other over some medium, that is using a medium now, or using a particular a channel or a medium, whichever one you want to use. So various transmission media can be used for transfer of data, and these things can be in two categories. They are in two categories. The first one is called the guarded transmission media. The guarded transmission media. In guarded media, transmitted data travel through cabling system that have a fixed path. For example, copper wires, fiber optics, and the rest of them. So for your guarded media, transmission media, the medium which information gets to the end of the other device is through the cabling system. And example of the cabling system, some of the cable that was mentioned there is the copper wires and your fiber optic. So this is what transmission guarded transmission is talking about. Then for the next one, the second one is what is called unguarded transmission. Unguarded transmission media. In an unguarded media, transmission data travels through free space in form of electromagnetic signal. For example, radio waves and laser beams. Radio waves and laser beams. So this is for your transmission, for your unguarded transmission media. Like what we are using right now, what is enabling you to hear my voice over the other end of the place is it is being accomplished through unguarded transmission media, because there is no wire that is connecting all of us. There is no wire connecting all of us. In a situation for your guarded transmission media, you could, in organizations that they have a landline within the organization, within the building, you can call that a guarded transmission media, because you will discover that at the end of the day, you'll find that for in that organization, there is a landline situated in every offices, and there is a cabling system which is used to connect everybody. There's a cabling system used to connect everybody, and each of these points a number is being, so some group of number have been assigned to them. So that is for your guarded transmission transmission media. Then for your unguarded transmission media, there is no wire that is being used in communication. Whatever sound or whatever message that is being produced, or whatever be it video, text, audio, or whatever that you want to communicate to the other end, it travels through what is called the electromagnetic signal. The electromagnetic signal now could be either your radio waves or your laser beams. So these are the two main ways which information travel through the space. These are the two ways which information are being communicated. For each transmission, it has its own advantage and disadvantage in terms of bandwidth, speed, delay, cost per unit, ease of installation and maintenance. Okay, now we are going to discuss this. We are going to discuss some of the technology that is being used in transmission media. That means we made mention of your copper wires, your fiber optics. Now we are going to check some of all these wires which are being used in your fiber, that are being used in your guided transmission medium, to know which is best. Because I tell you, you will be very surprised that all these things, depending on their peculiarity, there is a kind of quality that each one of wire here is called your twisted pair cable. Your cable. Copper wires are the most common wire used for transfer of the good efficiency at low cost. Now, for your copper wires, they have the price is not that on the high side. It is not on the high side. So that is one thing that we are being concerned in here. For your car, the most common wires used for transmitting because of the good performance at low cost. They are mostly used in telephone lines. However, if two or more wires are lying together, they can interfere with each other's signals. To reduce this electromagnetic interference, pair of copper wires are twisted together a pair of wires are twisted together to form a shape like a DNA molecule. Such twisted copper wires are called twisted pair. To reduce interference between nearby twisted pairs, the twist rates are different from each other. Up to 25 twisted pairs are put together in a protective covering from twisted pair of cables that are backbone to the telephone system or the internet or the Ethernet network. So for your copper wires now, or twisted pair cables, understand they are less expensive and they are mostly used. But the disadvantage of it that it has interference when when the wires are so close to each other, so they can be interference. That means waves from signals from one other cable can actually emanate to the other one. So to reduce that interference, they are being twisted together. So now, what is the advantage of your twisted cable? The advantage of the twisted cable are, number one, trained personnel the trained personnel for their installation are easily available or readily available. The reason being that twisted pair cable are the most oldest and most popular cables all over the world. This is one of the advantages of it, because it is regarded as to be one of the oldest and most popular cable used all over the world. So engineers that install them are readily available. They are readily available. That is the first thing we have to understand. And understand that it can be used for both analog and digital transmission. It can be used for both analog and digital transmission. That is the second thing. The third thing, that it is less expensive. It is less expensive for a short distance. It is less expensive for a short distance. The entire network does not go down if a part of a network is damaged. That is one thing which you have to understand. So if a part is actually down, it does not affect the whole network. It does not affect the whole network. Now, what is the disadvantage? The disadvantage of the twisted pair cable. Okay, understand that this, for your twisted cable, the disadvantage is that it does not go for a very long distance. signal, when you are using it, signals can't travel for a very long distance. And another thing there again is that high error rate for distance. Any distance that is more than 100 meters, there is always a high error rate. A high error rate when there is a distance greater than 100 meters. The second thing that there is, it is very tiny, and hence it can break easily. It is very tiny, and hence it can break it easily. The next thing there is that not suitable for broadband connection. No, it is not suitable for broadband connection. Broadband connection is mostly what we are using these days. So to encounter this, okay, it is not suitable for high long rate, and another thing there, it is very tiny. It is not suitable for broadband connections when you are using a broadband connection. So that is what is there for your twisted cables. Now we go to the next one. The next one here is what is called your coaxial cable. Your coaxial cable. Your coaxial cables are copper cables with better shielding than twisted cables. Your coaxial cable are copper cables with better shielding than twisted cables. So one thing you have to understand, that the cable for your twisted cable, the copper or the shield which they have, it is not that you can't compare it to the one of this your coaxial cable. For the one of your coaxial cable, it is more efficient. The covering is more efficient. Then the wire itself is more, it is more thick being compared to your twisted cables. Okay, now coaxial cable are copper cables with better shielding than your twisted cables. So that transmitted signals may travel long distance at a higher speed. A coaxial cable can consist of 3 layers, starting from the innermost stiff. The first one is the innermost. Then we have the stiff copper wire as core, then insulating material surrounding the core, closely woven braided mesh of conducting material surrounding the insulator. Then understand that there is also this protective plastic that is used to shield everything. Your coaxial cables are widely used for your cable TV connection and your LAN. Understand your LAN. I don't know if most of us who have done networking, you understand what is called LAN. LAN is called local area network. Local area network. In a situation whereby you have to, in an organization, you have to join 2 organizations together, you use what is called LAN. And for using of a LAN, you use this coaxial cable because it is very, very efficient. The transmission rate is of a very high speed. It's a very high speed, and understand that the more apart from it is very high, the mechanism of it, that is the makeup of it, is of a very high quality. So you discover that it takes a longer time before you can experience issue with it. It is not like the twisted cable whereby you can actually extend more than 100 meters. For your coaxial cable, it can be extended more than 100 meters. Then now that is for that. Therefore, the advantage of this is that it is excellent in noise, in reduction of noise. So the inferences which we complain in your twisted cable does not actually exist in this one. It has a very, very minimal noise reduction. There is a very minimal noise reduction there. Then the second thing there is that signal can travel longer distance at a higher speed. Signals can travel at a very longer distance at a higher speed, up to even 2 gigabytes per second for 1 kilometer cable. 1 kilometer cable, Unlike your twisted cables, your twisted cable is 100 meter, but for this you are having up to 1 kilometer per a wire of 1 kilometer. You can have up to 2 gigabit per second high speed of transmission. Then understand another thing again, it can also be used for analog and digital. It can also be used for analog and digital signal transmission. It can also be used for analog and digital transmission. Another thing there, it is not also expensive. It is more expensive. It is more expensive than your twisted cable, but less expensive than your optic fiber cables. It is less expensive than your optic fiber cables. Less expensive than optic fiber cables. Now, another thing there is that it is easy to maintain. It is easy to install and easy to maintain. That is another feature or another advantage of your coaxial cable. Then what are the disadvantages? The disadvantage is that it is expensive. It is expensive when you are comparing it to your twisted cable. It is expensive when comparing to twisted cable. Then it is not suitable with twisted cable. In a situation whereby you want to use different wires together, you want to use twisted cable and your coaxial cable, it cannot work with it. It is not suitable for it. Then the next one, which we will talk about now, another type of wire which we'll be talking about now is your fiber, your optic fiber. Your optic fiber. For your optic fiber, optic fiber is a tiny glass or plastic thread used to transmit data using light waves, which are called optic fiber. The light or the transmission of it is being called optic. Then light emitting diode or laser diode emits light waves at the source, which is being read by a detector at the other end. Optic fiber cables has a bundle of such thread or fibers bundled together in a protective covering. Each fiber is made up of its 3 layers, starting with the innermost layer. Then we have the core made of highly quality silicate glass or plastic. Then we have the cladding made of high quality silicate glass or plastic with a lower reflective index than that of the core. Then with the last one there, which is used for the protection, which is used for the covering, we have the protective outer covering, the protective outer covering called the buffer. So this is what optic does. Optic fiber cables is considered to be the latest technology for one of the wires which is being used. The reason for it is that the technology that is being involved in this is that the way its information is being transmitted is of a different technology. It's of a different technology. What is being used to transmit information, what is being used in this optic fiber cables is what is called your light emitting diode, which is called your LDE or your laser diode. Your laser diode. This is what is being used. So whenever a message is being sent, you have a detector from one end. Your detector detects it and it transmits it to the other end. So this is how the information that travels through this through this kind of cable, information travels there in a source of light. It travels there in a source of light. So now understand that the optic fiber cable is rapidly replacing copper wires in telephone lines, internet communication, and even TV connection, because transmission data can travel over a very long distance without weakening. Signal node fiber optic cable can have maximum segment length of 2 kilometers of bandwidth up to 100 megabits per second. up to 100 megabit per second. Multi-node fiber optic cable can have maximum segment of 100 kilometers and bandwidth of up to 2 gigabits per second. So what you discover that for each of all these things of this wire which have been stated, understand that the speed, their efficiency is different. Their efficiency are different. Take for instance, we talked about the first one, which is your twisted pair or your twisted cable. Information, it has its own drawback. Although information when they are being transmitted, information go at a very fast speed, but you can't compare it to that of the next one or that of your coaxial cable. And information in your coaxial cable, the speed of it, you can't compare it to the one of these your optic fiber cables. So you discover that the technology is actually evolving. As the technologies are evolving, the speed of all these things are also getting better. So you discover that for each drawback of any of all these wires, the next one implement those drawback and try to make it to be more efficient, more structured in such a way whereby you discover that the information these days which are being transmitted move with the speed of light. The reason for it is that the drawbacks are being put into consideration when there is a latest development in any of them, when there is a development. You understand, for your twisted pair, information, it has a drawback of information cannot actually go more than 100 meter, can go more than 100 meter. Then for the next one, you discover that information can actually go more than 100 meter, even up to 1 kilometer. And information traveled at a speed of 2 gigabits per second. Then for this one, for your optic fiber cables, your optic fiber cable, information can actually travel for a very long distance, even up to 100 kilometers. And the speed is even up to 2 gigabits per second. So these are things which we have to take note of. All these things constitute all these things which I've just listed up constitute the advantage or the merit and demerit of each of these wires. So please take note of them. Don't worry, at the end of the lecture, I'm going to send the materials for everybody so that you take a critical look at each of this topic which we have treated and you go over them. Okay, now, what is the advantage? The advantage of your optic fiber cables. The advantage is that it is fast replacing your copper wires because of the wires because of this advantage. It has a high bandwidth. It has a high bandwidth in the sense that it is immune to electronic interference. It is immune to electronic interference, suitable for industrial and noisy areas. Signals carrying data can travel a long distance without leaking. Number one, it is information travel at a very high bandwidth. Because of information travel at a very high bandwidth, then it is also immune to electromagnetic interference. And thirdly, it is suitable for industrial and noisy areas. Industry and noisy areas, you can't actually use your twisted cables. Take for instance, because you discover that interferences or electromagnetic distance will not make information that is being delivered to get to the end of the other device. So your optic fiber cable is actually suitable for industrial areas whereby you have noises. You discover that where these noises are, you discover that when information are being sent, regardless of the interference or regardless of the electromagnetic noises, information still gets to the destination without any hitches. So this is what makes optic fiber cable the best. Okay. Then what is the disadvantage of it? The disadvantage of it is that Despite long segment length and high bandwidth, using optic fiber cable may be is a very good option for everyone due to number one, it is very expensive. It is very expensive, more expensive than your coaxial cable, more expensive than your coaxial cable. Then the second thing that sophistication technology requires for manufacturing, installing, maintenance, and maintaining this kind of cables. What is this place is saying that the type of technology which you have been using, it uses a high sophisticated technology. That is, the technology that is that goes with optic fiber cables are sophisticated technologies. So you can actually have you can have an archaic technology and you would want to implement your optic fiber cable there. Understand that number one, understand that it is even expensive, more expensive than your coaxial cable. And secondly, since it is that expensive, it has a type of technology which it goes with. The type of technology which it goes with is modern technology. That means a sophisticated technology. With that, the installation is very expensive also. It has a high installation cost and high maintenance cost. So these are also the things that can these are the disadvantages of it. Then another technical disadvantage which we might not really consider is that light waves are unidirectional. So two frequencies are required for a full duplex transmission. In the sense that understand this side is more of kind of technical. So understand that information that travels with light, with the aid of some sophisticated equipment, you can actually transmit, you can actually redirect information. So with this is also part of the drawback of it. It's also part of the drawback of it because information travel, remember, information travel in light, travel in the form of light for this cable, using what is called, we made mention of it, you call your LED and your diode, your LED, and we talked about the other one also. So these are the two ways which your information travel. So, or because of information travel in this way, which is in a type of light form, it can be redirected. It can be redirected. Okay. We'll have 5 minutes to the end of this class. I will actually leave this time for questions. Please do call in for questions. Question. Okay. In the absence of any, please, I'm going to give an assignment. Please, the informations, the assignments which have been given, please try as much as possible to do them. They are part of your CA, or they are your CAs. They are your CAs. So please try as much as possible to do them. If you were not in the class and if you are not in the class, perhaps due to any reason, please do get across to me or get across to any of your colleagues to collect the questions, which are the assignments which have been given. Try as much as possible to do them. I have a record of everyone that have submitted and the assignments. Please try as much as possible to do them. Now, the questions, the assignment for today is for you to write down Okay, the first question, the first assignment is, what is, in a tabular form, what is the similarities? What is the similarities between your twisted pair cable and your coaxial cable? In a tabular form, what is the similarity? What is the similarity between your twisted cable, your twisted pair cable, and your coaxial cable? Your coaxial cable. Then number 2 question is, what are the type of technology? What are the type of technology in which your fiber optic cables are being used? What are the type of technologies which your optic fiber cables are being used? What are the types of technology in which your optic fiber cables are being used? The first question is, in a tabular form, what is the similarities between your twisted pair cable and your coaxial cable? In a tabular form, what is the similarities between your twisted pair cable and your coaxial cable? Therefore, number 2 question, what is the type of technology, or list the type of technology in which your fiber optic cables are being used? There are so many technologies in which it's used, so it is left for you to get them and read or take note of them. So the email which the assignment is to be submitted to is sharonchris29@gmail.com. 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 And in case you want to get across to me for more clarification on anything, call me on 08133 121 309. 08133 121 309. 08133 121 309. 08133 121 309. Thank you so much for your time. Have a lovely